Kraken really haven't lost a whole ton of games this season, and while they have had a few downright terrible games like the last one against the Islanders, it does feel like an inordinate amount of their losses have been due entirely to special teams. And once again, that was the case in this one. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where we're still waiting for the first Kraken win following the All-Star break as they fall 3-1 to the New Jersey Devils and basically lose this one because of special teams. Honestly, the Kraken do outplay the Devils for the vast majority of the game 5-on-5, but there are 7 power plays, 3 for the Kraken, 4 for the Devils. The Kraken can't score on any of theirs, including over a minute of 5-on-3 time at one point. Meanwhile, New Jersey scores on 2 of their 4. And with this, again, being far from the first time the Kraken have lost entirely because of special teams, I don't think it's necessarily a stretch to say, the Kraken would be significantly leading the Pacific Division if this was the case, but they might be a legitimate top 3 team, or at least top 5 team in the league, if they just had league average special teams. But instead, they have 2 of the worst units in the entire NHL on both sides. Their penalty kill is still 31st, and although they had killed off 18 in a row, once again that streak comes to an end at 18. And on the power play, well, they're still somewhere in the low 20s as far as ranking is concerned, so closer to the middle of the league, but still in the bottom third. That's still being propped up by a very good start to the season, where it's been pretty much abysmal since, late November. And since we're on the first half of a back-to-back, and this was a loss, so it probably isn't going to draw all that much attention anyway, let's just jump right into the game, where again, the Kraken get off to a very good start and really dominate almost the entire first period. The Devils do get a good push towards the end of the first, where Grubauer has to make one of the best save sequences he makes in this game, though he did have a few pretty spectacular saves, doing his best to win the Kraken the game. Unfortunately, because he was in net, they just couldn't put pucks in the net on the other end of the ice. The Kraken do get a power play midway through this first period, as Hamilton went to the box, but they obviously don't score on it. And we get to the end of the first with the score still 0-0, although the Kraken are leading pretty handily in shots on goal. In fact, at one point, I think they had 9 of the 11 shots on goal total, so 9 for the Kraken and 2 for the Devils. And then they come out of the gates hot in the second period, nearly scoring early on with a couple of good pushes, but they don't score on it, and then the Devils press back the other way, where once again, Grubauer has to come up big, and fortunately he's able to do so, with that push eventually coming to an end for the Devils, sending, once again, Hamilton to the box and the Kraken to their second power play, which they do very nearly score on about halfway through, as Schwartz goes in front of the net, gets held, so that's where the second one gets called, and you end up with a 5-on-3, but it leaves the puck off to the side of the net, and all that's left between the puck and the empty net is one outstretched leg of Blackwood, which Bjorkstrand, who gets the shot off, is able to get it over the leg, but a little too far over it, as he ends up going off the bottom side of the crossbar, and it bounces off the blue paint and stays out. So for what feels like the millionth time this season, and of course it's on the power play, Bjorkstrand comes that close to scoring. Literally, I think he was probably a half an inch closer to the other side of hitting that crossbar, and that puck would have gone bar down and in rather than bar down and out. Anyway, the Kraken do get the 5-on-3, and they nearly score once again on that, as this time it's McCann who fires off a shot that rebounds out in front of the net, and there's both Eberle and Beniers there to whack at it, and no Devils in front of them other than Blackwood. Beniers gets to it first, he whacks it, but it goes off the toe of Blackwood, who's just able to stretch his leg out behind him in time to save or rob Beniers of a goal here. And the Kraken do eventually come up empty on 3 minutes of power play and a minute of 5-on-3. At this point, play does even out. The Devils actually get a very good push that, once again, Gruber has to make another couple of good saves on right after this kill. He's able to do that, robbing Nathan Bastian on a couple of occasions. But then play evens out through the middle of the period until eventually, wouldn't you know it, the Kraken win a faceoff in the offensive zone. It's Wemberg who gets the faceoff win. Out to Dunn. He gets it to the far side to Larson up by the blue line. Larson fires off a shot. And somehow, someway, this puck finds its way through everybody and into the back of the net past a screened Blackwood to give the Kraken the 1-0 lead. For Larson, it's his 5th of the season, which does make now both of these first 2 seasons with the Kraken his highest goal-producing seasons of his fairly lengthy career at this point, as his previous high before last season was 4. He doubled that with 8 last year, and now is on pace for close to 8 again this season. However, this lead for the Kraken would not last very long, as the Devils right off the faceoff press in they actually might have gotten a shot off on goal. Either way, they get a scoring attempt, and Borgen ends up drawing a penalty and going to the box. And of course, right off the faceoff to start this penalty kill, actually the Kraken end up winning the faceoff, which does make it back-to-back then, fairly important faceoffs that they win, the one in the offensive zone to get the goal, and then this one to start the penalty kill shortly after it. However, that was not really a trend for this game, as they once again got dominated in the faceoff circle overall, and although they do win this faceoff, it's the Devils who get to the puck first behind the Kraken net. They get it out in front and then right up to the blue line immediately, where it gets over to Hamilton. He fires off the shot from right down the middle, and it gets through everybody into the back of the net to tie the game just 24 seconds after the Kraken took the lead. To their credit, the Kraken do nearly respond, pushing right back down the other way after this Devils goal, but they aren't able to score, and we get to the end of the second period with the score tied at 1. And also with the Devils going on to another power play, as they get another call in the final seconds, which worth mentioning that when the Devils get this call, there's still just over 12 seconds left in the second period, which should feel like a pretty easy 12 seconds to kill off and get to that intermission and then get the face-off at center ice. But they did just score on their first power play in much less than 12 seconds, so it's definitely not a given. And sure enough, they get a pretty good shot off on goal. The Kraken do manage to kill that off, and then mercifully kill off the rest of that power play to start out the third period. However, about halfway through the third period, with the Kraken getting the edge up to that point, once again it's Gord to the box, after he was the one that went to the box to start the period, or end the second period, however you want to look at it. He goes to the box again, and this time the Devils do score. Once again, it's Dougie Hamilton with a shot from right down the middle up by the blue line that I think does deflect off of Tanev just slightly, but enough to throw off Grubauer. It ends up in the side of the net behind him, and it gives the Devils the 2-1 lead, which is a lead they would never give up. They do end up getting another power play shortly after, which the Kraken are able to kill that one off. The Kraken, again, do very nearly score a couple of times before eventually going empty net, where the Devils hit that empty net, which gets us to that 3-1 score. Probably the biggest one was a crossing pass from, I don't actually remember who it was. It might have been Schwartz. I think it was Schwartz. Gets it over to Wenberg. Wenberg is able to hit it and get it between the legs of Blackwood, but it just coasts wide of the net on the far side of Blackwood through the blue paint. And that would pretty much be the next best opportunity the Kraken would get, as the game ends 3-1, and the Kraken drop their second in a row. So it is, and there's no way around this, another disappointing loss in 2 and 3 days now, so hopefully they can get that turned around on the second half of a back-to-back in New York tomorrow. But at least this one was considerably better than the game, well, in New York, but on the island, the other New York, you know what I mean. The previous game, this was a much better played game by the Kraken. They actually looked like they were ready to play this game and put in a good effort, especially 5-on-5, like I said. They got the better of the Devils really all night on 5-on-5. It was really Blackwood that shut down a number of very good saves, and Grubauer doing his best on the other end. Just the Kraken penalty kill couldn't get out of its own way, and the power play did get some good chances, but remains snake bit or bad, however you want to look at it. They weren't able to get the job done on their end either. And of course, these back-to-back losses come with even more bad news. Not just that Vegas has now passed the Kraken with back-to-back wins on those same nights, but also that injury to Burakovsky early in the game against the Islanders has now put him on the IR with no clear timetable of return, but that will put him out for at least a week or two. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see how much longer past that he could remain out. Again, with it being a non-contact injury that he went down with, and then immediately to the IR, that's certainly not a good sign. But to try to end this video on a bit of a high note after a couple of downers here of games, and certainly the bad news with Burakovsky, as far as Kraken 3 stars, we do actually have 3 stars in this game, as the Kraken showed up for this one and actually put in effort, unlike their game against the Islanders. The first star, as we get through this relatively quickly, again, second half of back-to-back and all that, the first star I thought was Philip Grubauer. Again, he showed up and played a fantastic game, definitely played well enough to win this one. Unfortunately, because he was the guy in net, the Kraken offense once again just dries up in front of him. So if Jones obviously is going to end up in net for the next game, with it being the second half of a back-to-back and all that. Hopefully the offense can show up for Jones in this following game, even though they were I guess, invisible in the one before that. Other than Grubauer, the second star I'm actually going to give to Alex Wemberg. I thought he was probably the best Kraken skater out on the ice. Really played well in all aspects of the game. Had an assist winning that face-off for the Larson goal, as well as having a couple of very good scoring opportunities. The one that he managed to get past Blackwood, but not on net, and a couple of other ones throughout this game, creating plays as we know he does as well. Plus, he was 50% in the faceoff circle, winning 11 of the 22 faceoffs he took, which was easily the most faceoffs of anyone on the team. And while 50% isn't necessarily heroic from a league standpoint, in fact, it's exactly average, it is pretty heroic for the Kraken. As for the last kind of torn between two guys, I really want to give one to Schwartz here, as he also had a fantastic game in this one. Doesn't end up getting on the score sheet, so it won't show up statistically quite as much as the three guys that do get on the score sheet. But I am going to end up giving, I think, the third star to Adam Larsson, especially with him scoring his fifth goal, which, other than last season, would be a career high against the team he was drafted by. And even outside of the goal, he did have a pretty good game. Other than that, again, playing fantastic in the defensive end, actually shut down a couple of good scoring opportunities the Devils had, which they still managed to get a number of those on goal, and Grubauer was able to make a few highlight reel saves. Anyway, Larson, a good overall game, does get the only goal, so he'll get the third star. Again, Grubauer first and Wemberg second. Schwartz, will get an honorable mention, as well as Matty Beniers, who continues to create plays and play very well in the defensive end. The face-off circle is still a work in progress for him, but other than that, he continues to play very well and like he's trying to make up for those lost time in those two games. Anyway, with all that having been said, this will probably be another one on the shorter end. Again, with it being the second half of a back-to-back and back-to-back losses, so probably not that many people watching in the first place. Let me know what you thought down in the comment section if you're one of the people that have made it to this point. And as always, if you are one of those people, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that help support the channel, so I'd appreciate you using them. And until a couple hours from now when the Kraken play the Rangers and the video that follows that, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken.